Hey guys, what's going on? It's Gale right here, back on another Pokemon video from 5-9, and today with me we have Waffles, and we're going to be discussing on a very interesting topic on whether all Pokemon will be returning to the games. Of course, if you guys are interested in these topics, leave a like down below, comment on what are your thoughts of this topic, and let's get right into it. Before we begin, Waffles, how are you doing today?
Hello everyone, Waffles the Asian Yanbear here, and I don't know about you, Gale, but I am definitely looking forward to these games. Gen 4 revolutionized Pokemon, and I know it's a lot of people's favorite Pokemon games.
Gen 4 was extremely iconic, and a lot of people who know me would know that it was my personal favorite generation, and getting remakes for it will be amazing. But at the same time, there's a lot of potential topics and points we need to cover, including the ones we are going to be discussing today. So for those of you who have been living under a rock potentially and did not know, Sword and Shield had one of the biggest controversies, even before the game's release back in 2019, with the fact that a lot of Pokemon from previous generations were missing, and as such, it led to a public outcry from the fanbase. Waffles, what are your thoughts on this matter?
A lot of players like myself were in shock or in denial when we first started to hear about it. There was this anxiety that was building up for a while, and then when it became painfully obvious that we wouldn't be able to bring some of our favorite Pokemon over, it erupted. The fan base was furious. Hashtag Dexit started trending on Twitter, a play on Brexit since the Galar region was based on the UK, and while the developers have tried to ease the player base's frustration with Pokemon Home and the DLC adding in new Pokemon to Sword and Shield, it's certainly been a stain on the franchise's reputation in a lot of people's eyes.
I completely agree. People haven't forgotten that point, even with their addition of nearly 200 to 300 Pokemon after the release of the game, and are probably questioning what the plan is and even Game Freak's ability to maintain the level that they used to in previous generations, with some calling for other companies like Atlas and Bandai Namco to take the reins over Pokemon. And, well, we now know that Game Freak and Pokemon Company themselves have acknowledged that fact.
We've even seen the company take steps in that direction, handing off the Diamond and Pearl remakes to a new company, ILCA, although Junichi Masuda will still be working with the company. On that note though, it's important to notice that the development team at Game Freak, and specifically Junichi Masuda, stand by their decision regarding the National Dex. When asked about fan reactions to Dexit in an interview with Eurogamer, Junichi Masuda said, and I'm quoting here, "Of course, you see these sort of negative comments and it does, as a developer, make you feel a little bit down about certain things. But at the same time, you have to take criticism. For example, with Pokemon Let's Go, early on, there were a lot of comments that it was too easy, or it was kind of a bit too kid-focused and that sort of thing. That sort of comment is something you see and you take on board, and you really try and base improvements in the next game on the feedback you received from the last one. So with regards to the Pokedex issue in particular that you've mentioned, that was something that was a really hard decision internally. There were a lot of discussions about which direction we should take that in, and ultimately we felt that, for the overall game, focusing on creating the richest experience we could within that game, leaving the Pokedex as we did was the best solution overall. Since the developers feel like they made the right decision, and since fans will be expecting it this time, so we're not going to see the same level of backlash we did in Sword and Shield, I do not see Game Freak changing course on limiting Pokemon for the next game. Now, in the other interviews that Junichi Masuda had before Sword and Shield dropped, he also mentioned that Pokemon that didn't appear in Sword and Shield could still show up in future games. So, all that being said, I highly suspect that the currently missing Pokemon in Sword and Shield will make up a lot of the Pokedex in the Diamond and Pearl remakes.
The addition of Pokemon in Sword and Shield, while welcome, still had a lot of missing Pokemon, nearly 231 by my last count, including some extremely key Pokemon from Gen 4 such as the starters, Starly, Bidoof, Darkrai, and of course, well, God himself, Arceus. While a majority of the missing Pokemon currently in Sword and Shield would be readily available for people to get in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, of course, provided the encounters are the same from the old games or even from Platinum to the remakes, we should also be able to get a majority of the missing Pokemon via the potential replacement of the Pal Park area, which in the old titles allowed you to migrate Pokemon from the previous generation titles, assuming you held the cartridges, to Diamond and Pearl and Platinum, of course.
However, having to have previous cartridges was a real problem. For a long time until the recent move to using Pokemon Home, players would have to jump through tons of hoops to bring in Pokemon from older games. There was this whole chain of transfers you'd have to go through, and we've really seen Game Freak move to simplify this process over the years, whether it was first with Pokemon Bank or by making the Virtual Console games for the 3DS. In fact, this simplification process could be another reason why the Gen 4 remakes will mostly feature the currently missing Pokemon in Sword and Shield. That way, players are able to obtain most of the National Dex, if not all of the National Dex, throughout this generation's games.
And of course, having cartridges be used would be extremely counterintuitive, like you said, and not to mention, well, the Switch doesn't have a cartridge slot like the DS had for the GBA. So I genuinely believe doing the old metal will be impossible. However, they could go about adding a sort of a mini wild area where you add Pokemon you've registered in the Dex in your Pokemon home to the wild area, and then you can capture it accordingly. What do you think of that, Waffles?
While this kind of thing could work, I still feel like it would be close to impossible to add every Pokemon into the game this way. They'd have to add close to 600-ish additional Pokemon through this method, assuming that the regional Dex sticks with the 400-ish Pokemon that Sword and Shield started with. I really don't see the developers going that route, especially given that last time they said it would be too difficult of a task to add all the Pokemon in, and not much has really changed on that front.
Well, in that case, I highly doubt that the game engine is going to be completely revamped from Sword and Shield to Diamond and Pearl. Even with the updated chibi style, or going back to a chibi style, the battles themselves are very similar to Sword and Shield, and as such, getting the Pokemon models from those games to this one isn't going to be exceptionally difficult. And that's where I believe they'll not add all the Pokemon to the game to be naturally captured, but you will have to transfer a Pokemon via Pokemon Home, and that's how they'll add all the Pokemon currently available.
While the engine may not need to be revamped anymore, Masuda has stated in past interviews that it's not just the technical difficulties of adding over 1,000 Pokemon to the current hardware. It's also about balancing them so that they can try to have a functional metagame. Even with a technology that's now available, that still requires them to take an individual look at each Pokemon and how they affect the game as a whole.
I can agree with that, but to be honest, Game Freak, or well, Ilka in this case, can make the metagame rules and regulations for fights themselves just like how Smoke-On does with their tiers, and allow players to enjoy the game with a balanced rule set. But with that being said, however, my final thoughts on this are that the games will contain all the Pokemon, but not capturable in the wild per se, but more so that you will need Pokemon Sword and Shield and Pokemon Home in order to be able to transfer over the Pokemon from the old games that aren't available in the new games, while also having a new pool of Pokemon, most likely the 231 Pokemon missing. This will all be in the new game, I think, plus some from the old games, leading to us to have a near pool of 350 to 400 Pokemon in the base games. This could also be further additions, or there could be further additions, I should say, in DLCs by expanding the map to other sub-areas, something we will be talking about in a future video potentially, and as such, expand the Dex, similar to Sword and Shield. What about you, Waffles? What are your thoughts on this?
I think I'm still quite skeptical. Maybe it's just the cynic in me, but I think that if we see something like a modern-day PAL Park or some other way of transferring Pokemon over, it's only going to come in the DLC. Maybe when all things are said and done, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised, but I think that just based on the path that they're currently taking and the various difficulties that they mentioned in implementing all the Pokemon, I just don't think we're going to see all our favorites return in the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl games. Whatever happens though, the games are promising to be a wonderful visit back to the Sinnoh region, and I am definitely very excited.
Well, I agree on that. Well, that's all from us today regarding the topic of whether Pokemon will return to the new games in its entirety, but let us know in the comments whether or not you guys would like to see all the Pokemon. And, well, I guess it would be better to ask on whether you guys believe all Pokemon will return to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and if so, how would be the best way to do it? Thank you guys so much for watching, and follow us on all our socials, like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
Okay, thanks guys. Love you. Bye.